Engage people with what they expect. It is what they are able to discern and confirms their projections. Sun Tzu, Art of War. The Art of War is an influential book written by Sun Tzu, a famous Chinese general, 2400 years ago, when pharaohs still ruled Egypt and the Greeks hadn't yet achieved their golden age. The aim of this video is to describe the Sun Tzu's war theories applied on 21st century contexts. This video will further discuss why Sun Tzu's theory is so precious and applicable in terms of modern strategic and contemporary sophisticated theory. Not until the late 18th century were Sun Tzu's writings introduced to the Western world. The first time Sun Tzu's The Art of War translated into a European language was in 1782 by French Jesuit Jean-Joseph. Since then, it has been translated and published in more than 30 different languages. The book Art of War, admired by Mao, Napoleon, Patton, Tony Soprano, and many modern corporate executives. In the first chapter of this book, Sun Tzu warned that war is a matter of vital importance to the state, the province of life or death, the road to survival or ruin. It is mandatory that it be thoroughly studied. Because of its importance, Sun Tzu also asserted that estimates are essential and necessary before the war is waged. If estimates indicate the plan is not workable or too risky, then the decision maker should not take any of the necessary actions before all issues of risks are properly solved out. If not, he will put his force in jeopardy and will ruin his nation. The case of the German invasion of the Soviet Union in July 1941 provides concrete evidence of how the failure of estimates can significantly influence the outcome of wars or operations. After Western Europe had fallen into the hands of Nazi Germany, Adolf Hitler was willing to turn his deadly war machine towards the Soviet Union. He then launched the famous Operation Barbarossa against Stalin. Strategically, with limited Nazi German resources, Hitler committed the fatal mistake by opening two separate fronts simultaneously against the Allied and Soviet Union. Nevertheless, the logistics estimate of the German General Staff had advised him before the operations that German supply limits would be only pushed to the east of Kiev and Lochvista and could not sustain Germany's line of objectives. Hitler's illogical determination and highly risky action not only resulted in the failure of Operation Barbarossa, but also predestined the extinction of the Third Reich. Attack by stratagem. Thus, what is supreme importance in war is to attack the enemy's strategy. Next best is to disrupt his alliances. The next best is to attack his army. The worst policy is to attack cities. Attack cities only when there is no alternative. When war is unavoidable, Sun Tzu taught us how best to win it. In his book, he asserted that the best way to conquer the enemy is to attack his strategy. This indicates that when one's strategies do not have significant benefits or advantages over the opponent's strategies, he may still win a battle but will eventually lose the war. Doolittle's bombing of the Japanese homeland on 18 April 1942 had no significant tactical effect. Apparently, it was to attack Japanese major cities on their homeland in return to their sneak attack on US military bases in Pearl Harbor 7 December 1941. Strategically, it was to disrupt and attack Japan's national military strategy and war plans by inserting 16 US Army Air Corps B-25 land-based medium bombers taking off from a Navy aircraft carrier, the USS Hornet, into the Japanese defense perimeter, which they perceived as watertight. Led by legendary Army aviator Lieutenant Colonel James Doolittle, this bold action caused a negative psychological effect on the Japanese far greater than the slight physical damage on bombing targets. It successfully unbalanced the Japanese strategic centers of gravity and quickly forced their military planners to alter their entire war strategy. After the Doolittle raid, the Japanese dramatically deviated from their previous courses of war and shifted their operational centers of gravity. Instead of going further south of Indochina region, they hastily attacked the island of Midway. At the end of the Battle of Midway, the formerly victorious Japanese Imperial Navy lost 4 aircraft carriers and 3,000 veteran aviators and seamen. It was not only a great loss for Japan, but also was the turning point of the Pacific War, which led to Japan's total defeat at the end of the Second World War. This shows that having achieved strategic superiority, we can win the war without fighting necessary battles. When one's alliance or coalition has broken down, the nation fighting alone to win a war will have far more difficulties. During the First Gulf War in 1991, both the Iraqi leadership and US General Norman Schwarzkopf precisely identified that the UN forces' theater strategic center of gravity was the coalition partnership. Launching his Scud missiles to attack Israeli built-up areas, Saddam Hussein intended to drag Israel into the fights. Once Israel struck back or joined the UN forces, Saddam Hussein could then instantaneously shift his war theme from invading Kuwait to Israeli-Arab conflict. It would cause rapidly the Arab nations to leave the UN forces and dissolve the US-led coalition. To counter Saddam's strategy and maintain the existing coalition, General Schwarzkopf had to deploy the US Army Patriot missile units to protect Israel from Iraqi ballistic missile attacks, and sent out elements of Combined Special Operations Force to hunt down Iraqi Scud launching facilities, defeating asymmetric enemies. Now there are 5 circumstances in which victory may be predicted. He who knows when he can fight and when he cannot will be victorious. He who understands how to use both large and small forces will be victorious. He whose ranks are united in purpose will be victorious. He who is prudent and lies in wait for an enemy who is not will be victorious. He whose generals are able and not interfered with by the sovereign will be victorious. In fact, more than 60 years ago, his booklet on guerrilla warfare, the Chinese Communist leader Mao Zedong had argued that orthodox forces may under certain conditions operate as guerrillas, and the latter may under certain conditions develop to the status of the former. However, both guerrilla forces and regular forces have their own respective development and their proper combinations. It is believed that Mao was profoundly influenced by and followed Sun Tzu's war theory during his guerrilla-type campaign. In fact, he developed his strategy against the outnumbered Chinese nationalist army by well utilizing Sun Tzu's elements of Shi, the extraordinary force, and Sheng, the normal force. Mao's campaign plan was clearly divided in 3 phases. Number 1, political organization to seize initiatives. Number 2, conducting guerrilla warfare. Number 3, transition to regular operations to defeat enemy in decisive battles. Applying Mao's unique strategy and using guerrilla-type irregular forces, the Chinese Communist Party successfully defeated General Chiang Kai-shek's US-equipped nationalist army in 1949 and established their communist regime, the People's Republic of China, in Beijing. Use of human intelligence and deceptions. Know the enemy and know yourself. In 100 battles you will never be in peril. When you are ignorant of the enemy but know yourself, your chances of winning or losing are equal. If ignorant both of your enemy and of yourself, you are certain in every battle to be in peril. In his book on war, Karl von Clausewitz insisted that the commander must trust his judgment and stand like a rock on which the waves break in vain. Unlike Clausewitz, Sun Tzu emphasized the importance and advantages of intelligence. In addition to the previous statement, Sun Tzu also wrote a chapter regarding use of secret agents. His thoughts may refer to what currently are called human intelligence and operational security, which have become more significant today. According to his book, the 5 sorts of human agents to be employed are native, inside, doubled, expendable, and living. Thus, commanders who are using these sorts of secret agents well and preventing the enemy from using them will stand a much better chance of victory on the battlefield. Given the situation in both Afghanistan and Iraq, coalition forces rely heavily on solid and timely human intelligence to pursue their success in combating terrorists and insurgents. Without reliable human intelligence, commanders may face not only the failure of a battle, but also extreme difficulty on waging modern war. The 9/11 attack has indicated that the lack of human agents deep inside the Al-Qaeda terror organization left the US without eyes and ears. In his book American Soldier, General Tommy Franks wrote, "Certainly, the United States saved money cutting back on human intelligence, but freedom is not free. It never has been." Study the past, understand the future. There have been too many slaughters in history, and no one could claim to be a winner after such bloody battles. Sun Tzu's The Art of War covers all levels in the spectrum of war. His principles provide a guide to win all types of warfare. It fills the indirect approach gaps left by other theorists. His battle-avoidance theory has proved him to be the world's most enduring strategic thinker for almost 2,500 years.